Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to the Marco Jure Show. It is Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. Thanks for tuning in to today's show to hear all the relevant, groundbreaking news here in the United States and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to follow the show and share it with as many people, friends, and family as possible who need to hear this truth that I'm trying to get out to you guys every single day. So thank you to those that are doing that. But let's get ready now for the best hour radio has to offer. Uncensored and ready to go. Let's get right down to brass tacks on my first topic today, which is our economy here in the United States. We always want to make sure we're keeping an eye on this. And I was looking at the Wall Street Journal. They had an article just 2 days ago. And it says here that the Trump team hones in on a message on the economy saying just wait until 2026. So right off the bat, I was like, I've got to read this to my audience. They've got to hear this. Now, after a report showing only 22,000 new jobs in August, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Trump he believes the employment numbers will start to tick up once policies from his big, beautiful bill and spending laws are fully implemented heading into next year. Now, earlier this year at a closed-door gathering in the Oval Office, other advisors told President Trump that it was up to him on how to publicly address the weak jobs data, and he could just breeze past the information by pointing to the future, according to some senior administration officials. They, of course, assured him that the economic indicators will show improvements as 2025 comes to a close. So why is this happening? Why are we only getting 22,000 jobs in the entire month of August? Let's think about that for a second. 22,000 jobs. That's like, what, 500 per state? Was my math off? I don't even know what it is. Something along those lines. It's something extraordinarily low. I mean, it's not very good numbers. And again, we called Biden out for this when he had, 12,000? I believe in 1 month during his last year in office. I mean, it was something ridiculous like that. Yeah, I was right. 440 jobs, if you want to average it out per state. Now, we know my state, actually, we can exclude California. We know Gavin Newsom hasn't created any jobs in the state of California this year at all. Now, that doesn't mean someone hasn't gotten a job in California. It means there's no new jobs in terms of numbers being created in the state of California. But what is causing all this? Why is it not taking off? We've seen various countries come in with massive investments in the country, Qatar, Japan, this country, that country. We've got the wonderful tariffs, of course, that we're putting in on every country, which is why the Prime Minister Carney of Canada is meeting with President Trump today. And we'll talk about that momentarily. But why are things not growing much quicker than they are? Well, there's a couple things for this. Number one, the Biden administration created absolutely nothing. Understand that, nothing. There was no 13.1 million jobs created or whatever, 15.1, whatever the number they try to throw out there. It's a complete lie. Imagine if 13.1 million new jobs were created. The government would be exploding right now. I mean, it would just have grown so much. But we saw the exact opposite under the Biden administration. We actually saw the economy and the GDP get much, much weaker. And we did it for 4 years. So there was this massive stagnation on the economy. We didn't grow. We didn't expand anything. There was lots of regulation. Obviously, inflation was extremely high. So what now? When will this start to take off? And understand, this has happened before. I mean, when Reagan took over in 81, it took until 1982 for the economy to really start get rolling. And there was some hardship in that first year or so in office. So it's not impossible that these policies that are being implemented are not going to allow the economy to take off eventually. But we need answers for this. Why is this not showing signs of improvement? We're seeing GDP is roughly around 3.8%. That's not a bad figure. Unemployment, somewhere around 4.2%, I do believe. But why is it not taking off? And the reason for this is because, and I think this is what I believe, is because of the tariffs that are being imposed. We still have high tariffs right now, and we still have above average inflation. Now, some people are going to say, well, Gervais, come on, it's 2.7%. Come on. But still, prices are greatly up since before the pandemic. That's what you have to understand. The prices are still up. So it's harder for people to maneuver. We see the value of the dollar dropping still. And again, I told you before, when the interest rates begin to come down, the value of that dollar is going to weaken, which means more inflation coming. That's what that means. Yes, more people will be able to maneuver, get cheaper loans here and there for housing, for businesses, for what have you. But still, you're going to see, again, more dollars chasing fewer goods. That's what we're seeing. What we also need to see is the manufacturing start to uptick in this country. And we haven't really seen much of that as of late. But now in a statement, and this is what it says here, the White House spokesman, Kush Desai, said that the administration is focused on pushing supply-side reforms, securing trillions in manufacturing investments, and implementing historic trade deals that will revive America's industrial dominance. So where are they? We've gotten these investments. We've seen South Korea. We've seen all these countries, Qatar, coming to tell us, Japan, we're investing this many billion, this many billion, this many. So where is it? Remember, we heard this from President Biden saying, oh, look, we've got the CHIPS Act, so we're going to make our own chips. Where are they? Has it been implemented? What's going on here? Why are we not getting this information? And I do think if we start manufacturing here at home, you're going to see, again, a massive growth in the economy. We're simply not seeing it, though. That's the big problem. Anything that Biden claims he created simply were jobs that returned after COVID. Nothing new was created. In fact, many small businesses went out, like in my state of California at the time. We saw lots of small businesses go under. They couldn't keep up with it. We saw more people taking out loans to keep their businesses going. So we see people in this massive amount of debt, and they're simply not expanding. Why aren't they expanding, though? Why aren't they growing? It's because of the tariffs. They're unsure about these tariffs. If the president could just wake up one morning and say, hey, you know what, I decided we're going to put a 50% tariff on anything we're importing from Mexico. And you're the CEO of Ford Motor Company. You say, okay, we get a lot of stuff from Mexico. We need these parts from Mexico. Otherwise, we can't, create our assembly line. We can't do anything. And now, of course, the price of those vehicles is going to start to uptick because now you're paying 50% more for those parts that come off that. So you got to figure, okay, so are we going to invest more? Are we going to try to, cut back on what we're building? What is going to happen? So this is what we're seeing right now over many different fronts. And I think that's why it's been a major problem right now for the Trump administration, is really because of these tariffs. Now, Trump's early economic actions have been among some of the most disruptive for the economy in generations, as the article goes on to say. He has imposed far-reaching tariffs on almost all imports, with more to come. Brought immigration to a virtual halt, which, again, is a good thing, while scaling up deportations, which he needs to really get to work on and figure that out. And, of course, strong-armed companies into making deals with his administration. Now, the president initially predicted that these steps would usher in a golden age, right? We're promised this golden age, we're in this golden age, or whatever the hell they want to say. But that hasn't happened yet, even though that Trump continues to boast about a strong economy. Really, it's a lukewarm economy, I would have to say. I think things are slightly better. We're seeing, obviously, the price of fuel going down, which, again, is a good step in the right direction. We're trying to become energy independent again. Biden cut that off. He strangled the golden goose there. And that, again, upsetting the entire flow of fuel and rising the price to $7, $8, $9, a gallon at one point, which is absurd. Then you see the uptick of all the other prices because, again, you have to ship these goods to market. So while we're seeing, obviously, much lower gas prices nationally, which is a good thing, and again, the right direction, we're still not seeing that equate out to these other markets. We're still seeing inflation. Many things like groceries. We're seeing things in insurance and housing for sure. Obviously, automobiles, everything's up. So we're not seeing those prices kind of come back down like we're seeing with the fuel. So while it might be easier to get the goods to market, you're still dealing with other things like these tariffs. So that's a big problem. Now, GDP production rose at a 3.8% annualized pace in the second quarter and is on course to grow at a similar rate for the third quarter that ended just this past week. But now there's still some economic data points that are still lagging behind. Monthly job growth has slowed, right? I just told you, in the month of August, 22,000 new jobs. That's basically 440 per state. Exclude California because Gavin Newsom can't create anything but more chaos in his state. Inflation is nonetheless frustrating consumers that the price of goods have continued to rise. But again, that becomes because we're importing more than we're exporting. We're not producing here like we ought to. And in states where we are producing things, we have many times massive regulations on them. We have fees, we have permits, you have all this garbage that has to go along with it. And you got to pay to get things to market still. Homes are still seen as unaffordable across the country. So we have all these things that are going on in our economy. Not good. Not good. One of the things I think that Trump is doing a good job on, and this is something that he's honed in on many times again, is, again, the deportation and, of course, the prevention of people and drugs flowing across our southern border and God knows what else. But right now, he just said this morning on Fox News. He was interviewed. He said we had 0 encounters, I believe. He was talking about last month's numbers. But there were actually 0 people let into the country for the first time in God knows how long. That's a positive, that we've secured our southern border. That's a good thing. No illegal immigration into the country. That is a positive thing. But the one thing he's got to work on, and he's got the money for it because he allocated this in the big, beautiful bill, is deportations. So he's got to get those numbers up. But one of the things, and we're going to talk about the immigration a little bit later. I don't want to get too much into it. We're going to talk about Chicago and all that. But he's got to do it in a reasonable manner, and I'll explain why in just a little later into the program. But here we go. We got some polling. I don't really care too much about polling. It doesn't mean much to me. People are not viewing the economy, though, as positive as we would like it to be. Of course, we want the economy to grow, and it's simply the numbers just aren't there yet. People are not satisfied with the way Trump has handled the economy. So while I think things have the opportunity to get better, and of course we're seeing countries invest in the United States, it's not adding up just yet. We need to bring back manufacturing like tenfold, even more than that. If we can do that, if we can bring back jobs to the Rust Belt, to our major cities that are, again, good paying jobs, the people can get, obviously with the skills required for it, of course, with merit, as we always want, that would be a good thing. Because then you're going to see things grow. And then we will become bigger exporters than we are, of course, importing all these things in the United States that we once created here. Now, the Wall Street Journal also has this article, too. It says, Canada Goods-Trade Deficit Widens as exports retreat. Yep. Well, who didn't see that coming? Again, I told you. When you are importing more than you're exporting, you're going to have a trade deficit. That's the whole purpose of this whole trade deficit war. It doesn't make any sense. Everyone's saying, well, we're getting ripped off. China's ripping us off. No, they're not. We're simply buying more from China than we are selling to them. That's why there's a trade deficit. That's why none of this nonsense with these tariffs makes any bit of sense. All a tariff is just a tax on you. Right, they tariff the company, of course. That's a tax. But then they add that onto you. They add that onto the consumer price. That's why you're paying 15, 20%, 25%, 50%, whatever the tariff is on that particular good that you're buying. So that's why these things are happening. I mean, it just, again, economics 101, folks. Now, the country's merchandise trade shortfall came in at, look at this, $4.53 billion. Yep, this was steeper than the economists anticipated and extended Canada's run of trade deficits to a 7th straight month amid the heightened trade volatility in the wake of the Trump administration's tariffs. Yep, because now they're exporting even less to us now. Only April's shortfall was larger following President Trump's announcement of the so-called reciprocal tariffs. Exports in August were down for the first time in 4 months as a recovery in shipments bound for the U.S. began to unwind, thanks in part to fresh industry-specific levies that hit goods, including lumber, copper, aluminum. Volatility in movements of unwrought gold also influenced trade for that month. Exports to countries other than the United States also weakened for Canada for a third straight month, even as Ottawa had pushed to pivot the country away from a reliance on the massive U.S. markets. It is clear that Canadian trade flows continue to face tariff-related headwinds in August, is what the senior economist said from the Bank of Montreal. Says Canada's economy has been hit hard by the Trump administration's abrupt shift in trade policy and, of course, embrace of these tariffs. Well, yeah, particularly in the manufacturing, the wholesale industries that rely on this kind of cross-border trade with the United States, by far the biggest market in the world, of course. Yes, we have the biggest economy. But now a slump in trade alongside a drop in business investment led to the economy to a sharper than anticipated contraction in the second quarter, though data has since signaled a modest recovery. What do economists expect? Well, they expect net trade will be a tailwind for the GDP in the third quarter. Yep, there you go. Again, we're seeing this all over the place. Don't think it's not happening in places like Europe as well. Many of those countries in the EU are in complete recession right now. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, I call him Hack Jeffries because that's what he is. He's a complete hack. A complete nobody, and of course they're still keeping the shutdown going on. Of course, blaming the Republicans when it's really the Democrats in the situation. But he was hit with a bunch of these hard truths, and there's actually one I'm going to kind of go against. You'll hear what I have to say about that afterwards. But here he is. This is CNBC. Let's listen to Hakeem get a little bit of dose of reality.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know about deflation and costs coming down. All I can tell you is that the inflation rate itself was 2.7% in the most recent read year over year versus it got to a high of 9% under Biden. Stocks are at record highs. Unemployment is 4.2%. That's full employment. The GDP was 3%. The border is actually secure. We've got trade deals with EU, Japan, many more in the works, and trillions of dollars of foreign investment coming here. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been set back indefinitely. And I just wrote down a few things. So I just have to ask you, where is the calamity that you're talking about? And it almost seems like for Democrats, socialism is the answer to these problems, or I don't know, an end of democracy or something. We just don't.
Yeah. So, anyways, Hakeem sat there like a putz hearing all of this, of course. So, yes, we see the GDP is rising. We always want to shoot between 3 to 5%. Of course, more would be better, of course, but Trump has got it in a decent range right now, even though, again, it doesn't seem to be equating into everyday Americans' lives. So at least it's not lower than 3%. That would be even worse. But we're still seeing, again, this inflation. We're still seeing these high tariffs. Again, that's equating into the inflation because the price of consumer goods is going up. We don't want that. One thing he said, though, he talked about how Iran's nuclear program is, kaput, basically. But I got to stop you here, folks. I got to share this with you because, again, I find this information. This was published in the end of September of this year. And it says here that Russia inks deal worth $25 billion to build 4 nuclear plants in Iran. Wonderful, right? Oh, that's good. So now we have the Islamic regime of Iran has now inked a deal with Russia's state nuclear cooperation, Rosatom, worth $25 billion to build 4 nuclear power plants inside Iran. So remember we said we destroyed all of them. Obviously, their nuclear capabilities were now over with, and now everyone is safe for the time being. Well, that simply didn't happen. Simply just didn't happen. So now the agreement was signed between Nazir Sharaflu, and a representative of Iran's Hormuz company, on behalf of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, and Dmitry Shiganov, representing a subsidiary of the state-owned Rosatom Corporation. in the presence of, obviously, Iran's Russia envoy, Qasem Jalil. Okay, so what's happening here? So they're obviously making moves to rebuild. They want this nuclear program to continue on. And Russia's going to be the one footing this bill. They're going to be investing $25 billion into this Iranian nuclear program. So now this project, the report goes on to say, will be implemented in the Hormozgan province and in the Shirak region in the southeastern portion of Iran, and a land area of roughly 500 hectares. Now, hectares are very small. 500 hectares would be like basically 2 square miles. It's something very tiny. Not super tiny, but tiny enough. Not super huge. Okay, so I think it comes out to like 1.9 miles is what they're trying to say. So think about it like that. Not terribly small, but not completely huge. All right, so the announcement comes days before the so-called snapback sanctions on Iran over the unsanctioned nuclear program are expected to go into effect as the consequence of the Islamic Republic's consistent failure to abide by a 2015 deal that, of course, the JCPOA, with world powers aimed to prevent it from developing a nuclear weapon. So here's the problem we come into now. I told you this before. The days before the attack that Israel took on Iran, President Trump had a very good deal lined up with the Iranians. Very good deal. It was probably, again, I told you, of all these peace deals that he, touts about, this is probably the best one. And he probably would have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize for this one. He was going to make sure that, again, Iran was not going to be trying to build any type of nuclear weapons. That was going to be off the table. They were going to agree to that. They were not going to enrich uranium past 3.5%, obviously using it for other purposes, which every single country on Earth does. But they were not going to enrich past 3.5%. So nowhere's near the capacity of roughly over 90%, which is needed for nuclear technology, like bombs and weapons and what have you. That was going to go away, of course, because they were not going to do that. And they were even going to allow U.S. weapons inspectors to come in and monitor their nuclear facilities. This is all of what that meeting was all about. And then Israel attacks, and now the meeting went wayside. It was over. So now we have Tehran now has suspended negotiations with the United States, and honestly, I don't blame them. They came to the table with good faith. They were going to agree to all this, everything that was on the table. And Israel kills one of the top negotiators, Ali Shamkhani, and many other nuclear scientists, other people as well, by bombing these nuclear facilities. Because again, I mean, we haven't heard this for the last 30 or so years. Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon next week, next month, next year. If we don't do something now, we're all going to be dead because they hate us. It was a completely unprovoked attack, and it totally curbed a great negotiation that really would have kept everybody safe. And we could have had, obviously a good footing on this because we would have been inspecting these facilities. Now that's over. So again, this was aimed at, curbing this Islamic Republic's nuclear ambitions. After the U.S., and obviously the U.S. followed suit after Israel struck its nuclear sites during the 12-day war. So now it's over. And now you're seeing Russia become involved in this. And I don't know if Iran is going to actually build nuclear weapons, but they're going to continue on their same programs they had prior to this. Probably with the capability that, hey, look, we could do this. They were enriching uranium to about 60% last time. They'll say, hey, look, we can do this too if you want to play this game. Israel has nuclear weapons. They attacked us. They unprovoked. They attacked. Iran's going to play a similar game to this, trust me. And they know that Israel will attack again sometime soon. They understand this. And they want to be ready for this. So I don't have any good news on that front to give you. I wish I could have given you that news that weekend. And then, of course, we bombed as well. I mean, it made no sense. And, of course, we know that they took all the technology that was necessary, the centrifuges, anything that's necessary, the equipment needed to, again, enrich this uranium, which they also took as well. And again, the amount of uranium that was enriched to 60% was not that much, so they could have easily taken it out at any point in the days leading up to that. We had aerial footage from satellites that showed trucks going in, trucks going out of these nuclear sites. So they knew ahead of time. They knew something was probably going to happen, and they removed it. And then they have that information, they have that technology to continue to do it again. And now Russia's going to be one of their biggest benefactors. So good job, guys. We did a good job. We could have kept the world safe, and now, of course, we're not. We're amping up for more war soon. So nothing positive on that front. Again, what could have been a great deal ended up turning into a whole bunch of absolute nonsense. Did not have to happen. And again, we championed it, folks. I hate to tell it to you that way, but we did. President Trump championed this bombing of these nuclear sites. And where does it get us now? Now it has us with a pissed off Iran ready to build more. Wonderful. The Washington Examiner has a good article. I want to switch gears here just for a little bit here, talking about California's high-stakes redistricting fight, which is raising $215 million. Wonderful. Wasting more money on things that really they don't need to. But now there's this big fighting over the changing of the California congressional district map to create 5 more Democrat-favored seats. And is becoming one of the most expensive ballot measures in state history, with campaigns to support and oppose the measure already raising somewhere around $215 million. I told you before, Newsom wants to spend somewhere around $250 on this ballot initiative so he can gain more power. That's what he really wants. That's what he wants. He has his vision set on the White House. He'd love to see more of the California, the Sacramento Democrats in the, Congress, of course, for when he, takes his reign of terror there, or at least tries to. But now with less than a month to go left in this high-stakes fight, that figure is expected to rise even more. Last month, more than $100 million was raised. Altogether, Prop 50 is the third most expensive of any proposition of the past decade. That's a lot of money. A lot of money to throw in this off-year election now we're seeing. And again, I told you before, you want to vote no on Prop 50. Unless, of course, you want gerrymandering in your state. That's exactly what this is. It is taking representation away from people in these districts. They're going to obviously create maps that favor 5 more seats. Because they need it, right, folks? We only have, 9 in California? Yeah, they want to do, I think, what do the Democrats have? I forget how many seats we even have now because we lost population. I think we were down to 53 seats. So I don't even know. They have 44, 45 seats in California for the Democrats and 9 for Republicans. And they need more. They need more representation, folks. Don't you know? No, they didn't steal enough last time. They've got to go hell-bent on creating 5 more Democrat districts. There you go. Let's all give Newsom wants to do. It's all about power. It's all about power. It has nothing to do with what's right or what's wrong. He wants more power. And he wants recognition for that power. He wants to be seen as taking on the Trump administration. And again, he uses this pretext with what Texas did, which, again, is completely fine, doesn't violate their constitution. But he wants to do this, and now he wants to change the California state constitution. So he can do this. So he can gerrymander in his state. That's what he wants. So, I don't have much more to say about this other than you need to go out and vote against this, unless, of course, you want gerrymandering in your state at a much higher level than what it already is. Again, I've talked to you about this in the past. Gerrymandering has been done by both sides for many, many decades now. First happened in, I think, 1812 or something, somewhere around there. 1812, 1813 in Boston, of all places. And it got the name of gerrymandering because the district that was created looked like a salamander. Salamander? Yeah, there we go. And, the guy's name was Jerry. So, gerrymander, that's where that term comes from. And again, it's been done for quite a long time, folks. Quite a long time. But the Democrats are a little bit more brazen about it as of late. But before in California, I told you back in I think it was the 60s, they had a assemblyman named Phil Burton to come in and draw these districts. And what he would do is he would collapse the Republican districts from 2 into 1 and create more Democrat districts. That's how he would do things. So you had 2 assemblymen or 2 congressmen, or women rather, would be competing for the same seat again. And that's how they gained power, slowly but surely over time. So there you go. So Prop 50, this ballot initiative, would now approve of new congressional maps passed by the state legislature, all run by Democrats. That's what it comes down to. So do you want people in Sacramento to continue while you're losing population to, again, redraw maps so they keep control? I mean, they already took 3 seats from you in the last election. Nobody says a damn thing about that. But there you go. There you go. Yeah, the congressional races that took, a month to count? 700,000 ballots, if that? Yet we knew at 8:01 p.m. on Election Day that Kamala Harris won the whole state unequivocally, and of course, a damn shiftless won the Senate seat. 8:01 p.m., 0 precincts reporting. But you see, the congressional seats, they took so much longer, of course. It took a month just to count 700 ballots with electronic machines, folks. Nothing weird there. It's unbelievable. It's right in front of your eyes. People just can't seem to see it. So there's that. There's California. There's Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom being the complete scumbag that he is. Now, other scumbags, like this one here in New York City, running for the mayoral race, Zohran Mamdani, there he is, gets called out over plans to end programs for gifted students in New York City, which is really just DEI in complete practice. So what does the communist want to do? Again, he calls himself a democratic socialist. That's not what he is. He's a communist. Everything he's pushing for is communistic. There's no democracy in anything here. It's simply one man's rule. And it's going to completely bankrupt your state if you allow this to happen. So now Mamdani, who is likely to become the next mayor of New York City, I can't believe I'm reading that to you, wants to end programs for gifted students in the city. Well, why not? Why not? If your kid's gifted, he should be just in the regular class with everybody else. He shouldn't be challenged at all. No, that's going to create a much better society. That's what he'll say. But now this is just simply what DEI is. Diversity, equity, inclusion, or as I call it, DIE. Policies that are being implemented here. Now, since it's not possible to make students smart enough for the gifted programs, the gifted students must be held back in the name of equity, of course. Equity. Everything's fair now. Everyone's in the same class learning the same thing. Lower down the standards for the kids that really don't give a damn about anything. That's fine. Don't challenge the kids that are, brighter, that push themselves, that want to do better, that want to excel, that want to learn more. No. Everyone's got to stay in the same class. If it's being disrupted by kids that don't want to work, doesn't matter. That's the way it's going to be. In the public school system, I should say, by the way. But the people who are now capable of achieving more must be punished in the name of fairness. That's what it all comes down. Everybody's the same. Is that not communistic, or is it? Of course it's communistic. Look at it. Every single thing this putz does is communistic in and of itself. City-run grocery stores, city-run free buses, tax the rich. Everything is communistic this guy pushes. Not one original thought in his brain. And what's he achieved? Nothing. This guy's achieved nothing his entire life. I think he tried to be a rapper at one point. That didn't go well, so he ran for the state assembly as a Democrat in New York City. Wow. So fulfilling, right? I mean, put that on your list of accomplishments. Got elected to public office in New York City as a Democrat. Whew. Not too bad. Now, again, Mamdani's being called out over this, even by liberal Washington Post. The Washington Post, is even not happy about this. Well, it's about time this putz got some backlash, isn't it? He goes on The View, he smiles, he puts on these commercials, offering what was that? He was watching, it was a Bachelorette show. I don't watch TV, so I don't see this crap. But he said, I want to give you a rose, something really weird like this. Nothing a masculine male would do. This is really beta feminine of him, and that's exactly what he is. But the Washington Post editorial board slammed the mayoral candidate on Friday for holding back gifted students in the name of equity, following his proposal to phase out gifted education programs in this city. By the way, he also wants to get rid of charter schools in the city as well. He's going to do everything he can to stop parent choice, school choice. Remember, I told you yesterday it was extraordinarily popular, plus 80% for Republicans. Really close numbers for Democrats, and I think it was 72% for independent voters. It's a very popular thing, school choice. But the Democrats don't want this. They don't want this. No, they want you to go to the school they want you to go to. They don't want you exploring different schools or schools competing with them. They want everybody to be in their own place. That's exactly what they want. Now, who could have guessed that Zohran Mamdani, the leading Democrat to become the next mayor of New York City, would provoke a firestorm by announcing this week that he intends to phase out the city's early elementary school programs for gifted students in the name of equity. Now, parents of bright kids want access to schooling that meets their needs, right? Wouldn't that make sense? I'm sending my kid to the school. You have to provide him some type of education that is above standard for him. Now, the Post was critical of Mamdani and other school systems that have made similar challenges to their gifted students, especially in this program, which I believe they call GATE in California, if I'm not mistaken. I don't even know if they have that anymore in California. Who knows? It's probably gone. Gavin Newsom probably, Jerry Brown, they probably did away with it. They didn't want anyone to feel bad if they didn't make the program. So now we have parents that see the gifted program as a stepping stone towards higher achievement in school. Again, higher standards, more discipline, expecting more of yourself, pushing boundaries for yourself academically. But that solution is not being, taken away from children who are currently benefiting from them. It is to expand the program and, of course, improve how the city identifies children from underdeserved populations. Now, think about that for a second. Just because someone is, in a lower socioeconomic position doesn't mean that they don't have gifted, smart children. This is the whole stupid thing about these Democrats. They think if you're poor, it's because you're an idiot, and obviously you're not going to make anything of yourself, so therefore everyone's got to be the same so everyone feels good, right? It's a feel-good program. It's ridiculousness. Just because someone is wealthy or not wealthy does not mean that someone is stupid. And vice versa. Just because you're from a wealthy family doesn't mean you're a brainiac. The program doesn't discriminate on anything. You just have to meet the qualifications to get into the program. That's all it is. So there you go. It's stupidity in and of itself. By the way, Mamdani, the idiot, attended an elite private school. So he's not even in the public school system. He has no idea what the public school system is all about. But now he wants to trap New York City students in less than mediocre. I mean, it says mediocre here. It's less than mediocre in New York City in the public schools with no chance to excel if they're capable of doing so. Yep. Even Jonathan Turley made the point in The Hill that Zohran Mamdani appears to have a plan for leveling the playing field in education. Faced with a huge number of students with comparably dismal scores in math, English, science, you name it, Mamdani is going to bulldoze the higher achieving programs. I mean, this is communism, folks. Do you not see how they're planning so everybody's the same, right? Every single person is the same. There is no individuality. There is nothing, this person's good at this subject. Everybody's the same. Now, his opponent, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, said he would actually expand these programs. So we'll see if this takes hold. We'll see if this changes anything. You don't have much time, New York. I mean, you're very close to being, finished. It's not going to be very good. I foresee what I foresee. If this clown wins, if he does win, and there is a good chance he does win, because, again, Adams is the only smart one that dropped out of the race. He said, look, I've got low, percentage points. I'm just going to drop out. Now, again, those 8 percentage points may go to Cuomo. But Cuomo was only at like 36 or so percent. Curtis Sliwa still has about a quarter of the vote. And you can't cut up that vote because I think Mamdani has somewhere around 43%, if I'm not mistaken. 45% of the overall vote is what they're alleging, at least. So maybe people wake up that have gotten behind him and said, you know what, maybe this guy's an idiot. Maybe he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Maybe this is just too good to be true, which it usually is. And they're going to go with the, I guess, more moderate candidate, Cuomo, even though he's very unliked in the city of New York. I don't know how this turns out. I don't even know if things will get better if you put Cuomo in this position. Maybe a little better. It won't be as communistic. I don't know how this turns out. But I can tell you, if he gets elected, if Mamdani the commie gets elected, you're going to see people leave that city in droves. Because people want their kids in good schools. They want the ability to challenge their kids. They don't want unsafe streets where this guy's pledging to remove police departments, to end prisons, to create city grocery stores. Every single thing on your life he's going to do. Of course, he's going to freeze rent. Yeah, right. Freeze rent. Who's going to pay the landlords? How are they going to come and pay their bills? What, are you going to evict them too? And just create city housing all throughout New York City, except for the uber wealthy that can afford it? This guy has no idea what he's doing. Now, it all sounds good, right? Oh, I'm going to freeze your rent. I'm going to freeze this. I'm going to make a city grocery store. Oh, my God. It sounds fantastic. Yeah, I think they tried this somewhere in the Midwest, and it went out of business pretty quickly. Just thought I'd bring that up to you guys so you're aware of all this. Look, what a mess that's going to be. What an absolute mess that's going to be if this clown gets in there. Unbelievable. What a schmuck, too. What a dummy. Who the hell would vote for this guy? That's what I want to know. Who are these idiots that think this is a great idea? Again, no merit-based. Everybody's the same. They love it. The losers love it. They love it. AOC loves it. She's a loser. She's an airhead. She's an idiot. She's just a big mouth who's never done anything with her life. And the other big mouths that have done nothing with their life, they love it too. Because once you're swimming in their circles and everyone's at the same low end of the pool, everybody's happy, right? They love seeing people fail. That's who these people are. Yep, there you go. Oh, of course, it's going to be a sanctuary city too. So, criminals, illegal criminals, it's a safe haven for illegal aliens and crime. That'll be great. Hey, no police, no jail. I mean, it's going to be great, folks. It's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. Maybe they can rename New York City to Old New York City and then just shift all the normal people into, someplace else and call that New York City and change, the financial sector and everything and shift everything there. Because this simply is not going to work. You're going to see your biggest city being run by a communist. I don't think that's going to be conducive to a better America, too. Let's think about the economical aspects of that. God knows he'll close the ports down, for God's sakes. Or, a limited amount of things can come into the country. All right, moving on. There was a fiery exchange over the Epstein files when Pam Bondi spoke to Congress, to the Senate Judiciary Committee, over questions, too, about immigrants in Chicago. What's going on in Chicago? Not anything good, I can tell you that much. But Bondi refused to answer whether Donald Trump's directed prosecutions of his enemies seemed unable to answer many undocumented immigrants are in Chicago or whether it is a sanctuary city. So they're grilling her on all these stupid questions. Really kind of stupid. She doesn't do a good job herself of just being direct and answering them, of course. She kind of goes off on tangents here and there. But one of the things that I thought was interesting about all this, she said on Tuesday, Bondi defended the Justice Department's refusal to release the Epstein materials after she stated in February that the files were sitting on her desk. I said it was sitting on my desk along with the JFK and MLK files, Bondi said. And I said I had not yet reviewed it. Our memo on Epstein clearly points there was no client list. Okay, so then why didn't you release the files then? If there's nothing there but information about a dead guy, why not release the files? And then you'll have to explain to us, of course, to why Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison right now. What's going on there? Now, the Democrats love this because they can just play off this now. Because they can say, oh, no, we want this out. Even though they had 4 years where they had all this information and nothing was released to the public. That begs the question there as well. But Durbin also, this is old Dick Durbin of Illinois, also asked about reports that the FBI was ordered to flag any Epstein-related records in which Trump's name was included. And then she said, I'm not going to discuss anything with you, Senator. So Bondi fired back. Yep, there you go. More chaos on this front. And again, it just doesn't look good for the Trump administration. It doesn't look good because Again, you said you were going to release these files. Now you're saying the files don't exist. There's no client list. Then why the hell did you say that you had it? That's my question. If this doesn't exist and you're saying, hey, when I get in office, I'm releasing this, then why'd you say you were going to do it? Why would you say you're going to do something of which there's no evidence you even have it? Wouldn't you say, hey, I'm going to look into this. If there's damning information, I will release the information to the public? I mean, that would be the smart thing to do. I'm not saying, hey, we're releasing these files. We're going to do this. There's a client list. There's all this information. And then all of a sudden, nothing happens. We're told it's phase 1, everything's redacted. Phase 2, it's a hoax. Phase 3, is there a phase 3? I don't even know. Not a good look for the Trump administration. Not a good look at all. Yep. There we go. And of course, things are chaotic in New York City as well. I'm sorry, in Chicago as well. Yep. I mean, it's just chaos all over the place. All right. I'm looking. Oh my God, this is good too. I love this article. Slate News. Slate News is great, by the way. You'll get some of the best information from Slate News every single time. It says here, Chicago mayor orders ice-free zones to block federal agents. Now, I doubt Brandon Johnson has ever read the Constitution. I gotta tell you, I don't think he's ever read the Constitution once in his life. I don't even know if he can read personally, but he definitely hasn't read the Constitution. It says here that Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, him and Gavin Newsom, two absolute morons who have no idea what the hell they're doing. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order on Monday prohibiting federal agents from using city-owned property for enforcement operations, even as President Donald Trump deploys National Guard troops to Illinois to combat crime and illegal immigration. Now, as part of Johnson's directive, part of his Protecting Chicago initiative, I want you to stop and think for a second. Who's he protecting? He's protecting illegal aliens. That's the whole purpose of all this. Because you have an out-of-control Chicago, you have people accosting ICE agents when they're trying to arrest people. Now the president is trying to bring in more people to kind of safeguard these operations and, of course, carry out these deportations. But now he's creating this Protecting Chicago initiative, which really is just protecting and coddling criminals. Designates city facilities as ice-free zones. I mean, he's going to write a blueprint of where, obviously, these illegal aliens are residing. Is that what he's going to do? Dude, what an idiot. How stupid is this guy? I mean, he's going to put an ice-free zone in a wealthy, affluent neighborhood? I doubt it. What a schmuck. Anyways, a move designated to frustrate the ICE agents in an effort, of course, to deter what they're doing in the nation's third largest city. That's what this comes down to. He says, today we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in out-of-control administrations. Yep. The order establishes ice-free zones. This means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids. Now, again, this is conducive to what Jumbo Blimp Pritzker there, the orca whale, that's their governor. The order comes after Johnson and Illinois Governor J.B. Fat-Ass Pritzker filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration seeking to block the federalization and deployment of National Guard troops into Illinois. The Trump administration must end the war on Chicago. And of course, the Trump administration must end its war on Americans. Trump must end its attempt to dismantle our democracy. So there's a couple problems with this. And again, like I said, I doubt he's ever read the Constitution. I doubt it. There's no way he has. Because then he would understand that there's something called the Supremacy Clause. Federal agents are treated differently in various states. Now, what does the Supremacy Clause say? Well, it says that this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. What does this mean? Well, why did I read this to you? Well, because this means that the federal laws and, of course, any type of treaties are the highest form of law in the land in the United States. And state law, local municipalities, ordinances cannot conflict with them. They can't. They simply cannot. That's the law of the land. So now the president, if it's dealing with federal law, right? We have ICE agents who are federal agents. If the Trump administration wants to bring in troops to aid and abet them, he can do that. This is exactly what the whole purpose of this is. Now, again, I told you before, I have issues with just simply deploying the military to various cities. Like Memphis, D.C. was fine because that is a federal city, so the president is well in his purview of the Constitution to do all that. And again, he's made D.C. a much safer place. I don't even know if I can call it the District of Criminals anymore, except I can because look who runs it. But we're talking about now a major city. Obviously, it's run by the state of Illinois. Here's the problem. If you're now sending in the military or the National Guard, who is almost like a form of the military, if you're sending them now into cities where they're carrying out these operations, that's a little bit different than ICE going in and doing what they're doing. Again, ICE has every reason to do what they're doing. They have every right to do what they're doing. But it becomes different when you start bringing in the National Guard, the military, to police the cities as well. And similarly, if you're bringing them to work with the local police departments, that's, again, something totally different. You're militarizing the police. Now, people will come back and shout back and say, well, Gervais, come on. These cities are out of control. I talk about all the time. 50 shootings, 58 shootings, 7 dead, 9 dead, kids shot. I mean, it's a mess in parts of Chicago. Not every part of Chicago, but in parts of Chicago. The only way the president has a right to bring in the military when they're not working with, again, the federal government. Again, we can point to the 1992 LA riots. There was mass insurrection. Well, it was mass rebellion, I should say, not an insurrection. But there was a massive rebellion going on against what was happening with the Rodney King trials, of course. And the military came in to stop what was going on because there was, again, massive civil unrest. Now, I highly doubt that Republican Governor Pete Wilson did not go along and request that George H.W. Bush bring in these military agents to, again, stop what was going on. This is what happens when government works together. But you're having Democrats that are not working with the federal government. They don't want to work with the federal government. They want lawlessness. They want law and order. They want it in Portland. They want it in Memphis. They want it in Chicago or L.A. or New York. And by the way, you think Mamdani's going to work with the Trump administration on illegal aliens? Give me a break. Wishful thinking, right? But here's the problem, though. Here's the problem I have with just this aspect. If they're coming to work at the, ICE facilities or protect the ICE facilities or protect a federal building, that's something different. But if they're going out and actually policing and helping carry out these arrests, that's a totally different thing. And I'm not saying they can't even come out and stand out in front of the facility and, of course, maintain law and order so nothing happens to the people inside of the building. That's totally different. But if they're out there carrying out these, arrests or, again, searches of people, that's something a little bit totally different. So we got to see where we are on this. We've got to make sure we're staying in purview of the Constitution. But now Donald Trump has come out and said that he may invoke the Insurrection Act. And again, everyone's saying, well, there's a lot of crime. He might as well do this. Is this the right thing to do, though? Is this the right thing to do? And I say it's not the right thing to do, unless, of course, they're working specifically at federal facilities or protecting federal facilities and or agents. Anything outside of that is really unconstitutional, unless, of course, you get Jumbo Blimp Pritzker to sign off on it, which he will not do. Brandon Johnson is an afterthought. He has nothing to do with any of this. But in order to do this, you need the approval of, well, there's a couple of provisions, of course. that actually have to do with this. And one of them is there's either an active insurrection happening or an active rebellion. Think about the 1992 LA riots. There's a massive rebellion going on. I mean, so much damage going on in the city of LA. Unsafe. And so they eventually brought in the troops to restore order. And again, like I said, I doubt Pete Wilson would have gone on with that because, again, he was a Republican. Bush is a Republican. So that's a different situation. There's an active rebellion going on inside the city. So that's a totally different situation. Just because there's high crime does not mean there is a rebellion going on or an insurrection. But what does an insurrection actually mean? So he's trying to take the Insurrection Act of 1807. And again, it's rarely used, but that empowers the president to deploy U.S. military forces domestically to suppress insurrections, rebellions, or domestic violence when local authorities are unable to or unwilling to maintain order. But what is an insurrection? That's what we have to ask ourselves. What's an insurrection? And what is what happening? Does it meet that definition? So the legal definition of an insurrection is something that refers to an act of rising against the authority of the state or its laws. So an insurrection could involve an acts of rebellion, violent uprisings against the government authority, which can include inciting, assisting, or engaging in such acts. It is often characterized by an organized, so we have obviously people in charge of it, leading it, and armed revolt against civil authority, which again is distinct from riots or mob violence. So we got to understand, are the people in the streets just armed? Are they organized? And are they attacking or trying to overtake the government? That's not happening in Memphis. That's not happening in Chicago, despite the high crime rates, which again are abysmal. Shouldn't happen. We don't want it to happen. But that doesn't meet the qualifications for the Insurrection Act. I wouldn't say. We have to understand, we want national stability, we want public safety, of course, but this is so much more distinct than just high crime. So again, I don't think it meets that, based again what I've read about it. There are times where this has happened. The LA riots is an example. The Watts riots are an example of this. Shays Rebellion, way back in the day, that was an example of it, where they actually raided an armory, took weapons and tried to overtake the government. That is an insurrection. That is an act of a rebellion. That's what all these come down to. But here we go. We're bringing in the military to assist with just simply carrying out these sweeps that they're doing for immigration raids. Again, I don't know. To me, this doesn't seem like it's constitutional. And what I fear the most about all of this is that this becomes a norm, that we have military in our major cities without the approval of the governors of those states. And we basically live in a police state after this. And if they can send them in for whatever reason, hey, the president can say whatever the hell they want. They don't really need to say anything. They say, well, I'm going to, implement this. This is what's happening. So here we go. It has to be a two-way street, folks. It can't be one way or the other way. So I wanted to share that with you, my thoughts on this. Again, I see people just so happy with this. Yes, we need to stop this crime. Look, yes, I want to stop the crime too. I want law and order in our major cities as well. I want people to be safe in their communities. Absolutely. But that does not equate that it is an insurrection. That does not equate that it's a rebellion. And the president still has to follow the Constitution if it's not one of those two things. And he still has to get the approval of a governor of the state in those situations. Unless, of course, as I said, it is specifically at a federal facility. Then he doesn't need J.B. Pritzker or Gavin Newsom or, Kathy Hochul or anybody else to give him that approval. If it's for specific reasons for a federal building or a federal courthouse or what have you. But if they're just simply going to be roaming the streets, that is a big problem. To be carrying out law enforcement, that's a big problem. So you got to be careful what you wish for, folks, because, again, you might get more than what you asked for. Just thought I'd share that with you if you let the government get too out of control here. And I think that's what we're starting to see here. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this show today. Hope you'll share the show with some friends. Hope you will have a good rest of your day. I hope you, make the best of it. Hope you keep your house in order. Hope you are store up your food, your water, your ammo, any type of currency, medication, supplements, fuel, anything you need to be self-sufficient. Make sure you're always doing that and always watching your six when you're out there, too. You never know what's going to be happening, especially if you're in one of these big blue cities. Folks, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy. God bless.